What a pleasure it is to welcome to the Mike Gallagher Show the esteemed governor of the great state of Louisiana, a man who many wish would be president. Governor Bobby Jindal joins us. Governor, it's great having you on the program. Welcome to South Carolina.
Mike, thank you. It's an honor to be back on your program with you, and it's great to be back in the great state of South Carolina.
Well, I know you're spending some quality time there. We were just talking a moment ago about how important South Carolina is to the political landscape. I think it's in many ways like your state of Louisiana. There's so much that happens, and many people look to states like South Carolina and Louisiana to sort of determine a barometer of what's going on in the rest of the country.
Mike, that's exactly right. And South Carolina obviously plays a critical role, as it should, in our presidential elections. It's a good southern state, good SEC state, so we in Louisiana certainly like it. We think people here talk normal. We've got the same kind of accents we do, eat the same kind of foods we do. I think we share a lot of the same outlooks when it comes to what's wrong with Washington, D.C. We look at the challenges. You mentioned two great issues, by the way. You've got the Prime Minister of Israel, our most important ally in the Middle East. He is here talking to our Congress, talking to the American people about the danger of a nuclear-armed Iran. And yet you've got the Obama administration doing everything they can to ignore him, to turn their backs on him. And I worry they want a deal so badly with Iran, they may end up taking a bad deal over no deal. And that's bad for Israel. It's bad for Europe. Fundamentally, it's bad for America.
Governor, you speak so frequently about the need for clarity, and I think that's what so many people appreciate about you. You have a concise worldview. There's something wrong with this picture that this administration seems more conciliatory towards Iran than it does Israel. I mean, it's just bone-chilling that we've seen President Obama treat Benjamin Netanyahu so disrespectfully, it seems, and for Democrats to boycott Bibi Netanyahu's speech. I mean, so many listeners say to me day in and day out, up is down and right is wrong here. I mean, this is not even a close call. Iran is our enemy, no?
Mike, you're exactly right. And I worry that this president's policy towards Iran is actually infecting his other foreign policies. I think it's one of the reasons we haven't been harder on Assad getting out of Syria. It's one of the reasons I think Turkey is not fully committed with ground troops against ISIS. They don't want to create a vacuum that strengthens Iran via Assad in Syria. I think it's one of the reasons we may not be pushing Putin hard enough to get out of Crimea and the eastern Ukraine, all because this president wants his legacy to be a deal with Iran. And, Mike, remember this. A nuclear-armed Iran doesn't stop there. I believe the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Turks will all want nuclear capabilities as well. Now you've got multiple states in the Middle East that could have nuclear capabilities. We've got to draw a line, a meaningful line, not another one of these failed red lines that the president drew before. It makes no sense for us to make a bad deal with Iran. You've got the president of the United States telling Democrats and Republicans not to pass more sanctions against Iran. It makes no sense to me. You've got the president of the United States and his administration ignoring the informed pleas and analysis of our closest ally, Israel, in the Middle East. To me, but then again, what do you expect from an administration who wants to lead from behind? They won't even call out the threat of radical Islamic terrorism for what it is. They think that we need a jobs program. This is a same administration that says we can't kill our way to victory. I'm very disappointed in their treatment of Israel, very disappointed in their approach to Iran. But it's also consistent with how they have failed to take on ISIS. It's one of the reasons at the White House I said this president, and I don't take joy in saying this, I think he has disqualified himself to be our commander-in-chief. He's just not, for whatever reasons, he does not seem to believe in American exceptionalism.
Well, we have to get it right next year, as you know. And Governor Bobby Jindal, who joins us here on the Mike Gallagher Show, you're making a South Carolina visit and joining us from the studios of our home in the upstate in South Carolina, Conservative Talk 94.5 WGTK FM. Let's talk about the state of the Republican Party. I loved what you said over the weekend about House or Capitol Hill Republicans suffering from post-election stress syndrome. I mean, I love that. You rightfully said, as soon as we win an election, our leaders forget what they promised. So many people are very disappointed in this whole issue of the DHS funding over illegal immigration. I know you're disappointed too.
Absolutely. Mike, they're waving the white flag of surrender. I remember during the campaign, they said, give us the majority. They would stop the president from breaking the Constitution, going around the law with his amnesty program. What I'm worried about is they're waving the white flag of surrender over amnesty. The next flag of surrender is going to be over Obamacare. This was the same majority that said, give us the majority, we'll repeal Obamacare. And, Mike, what worries me, now Republicans are saying, well, we've got to keep some of the tax increases, or we've got to create a new entitlement program, or we've got to count success by how many people have cards, not whether we're reducing costs. What I worry is that I would love to see Republicans in D.C. govern the way they campaigned. Why won't they fight for our principles? You know, the reality is, and I disagree with President Obama, or disagree with Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, at least they fight for their beliefs. I'd love to see our guys stop worrying about the Washington Post, the New York Times, fight for their beliefs, remember who elected them in the first place.
And yet, we've got, it seems, a little bit of momentum. I mean, it's as if Republicans forgot they have control of the House and the Senate. Why do you suppose there is this unwillingness to stand up and fight against what many of us believe, what millions of Americans believe is a failed liberal agenda for this country?
Mike, I think that they get to D.C. and they become part of the problem. They get upset when the New York Times editorializes against them, the mainstream media criticizes them. There is this post-election stress syndrome where they don't think they can accomplish anything. We need to remind them Obamacare is unpopular. We campaigned against Obamacare for repealing it and won elections in purple states, red states, blue states. They need to have the courage of their convictions. I don't remember those campaign ads saying, we're just going to repeal the easy parts. We're just going to repeal the parts that aren't difficult. The reality is too many Republicans want to become cheaper Democrats. They want to become a second liberal party. We don't need to just be the party of no. We need to be a principled conservative party that stands up for our beliefs. I've outlined a detailed plan. How do you repeal and replace Obamacare? I've outlined a detailed plan. How do you get not only rid of Common Core, but replace No Child Left Behind by shrinking the federal Department of Education, not involving the federal government in our local classrooms. I think too many of these politicians say one thing to get our votes, go to D.C., think it's too hard to fight, don't like it when the mainstream media criticizes them, and then they become part of the problem.
Well, let's talk about next year and the race for the White House. I got a lot of feedback over a relatively brief speech you gave in the day before the CPAC convention. You talked at the CPAC Activism Boot Camp, and people walked away saying at the end of CPAC, Governor Bobby Jindal was the hit of this entire experience. Can you talk a little bit about your intentions and running for president? Are you ready to fight full bore for the GOP nomination? What are the challenges, the pitfalls? Can you just give us because there's a whole lot of Bobby Jindal fans in this country who are hoping you'll run.
Well, thank you very much for that, Mike. This is what I've said to folks. Certainly, I am thinking about running for president. I think anybody thinking about running needs to think about what they would do, not just how they would win. Too many of these folks are thinking about political consultants and fundraising and polling, and that's all fine. We need our next president to be somebody who wants to do something, not just be somebody who understands we need big changes in our country. We need to go there. This president is trying to bankrupt our country financially, morally, in our policy abroad. We need to restore the American dream. President Obama is in the process of making it all about redistribution and government growth. Mike, that's not the American dream. The American dream you and I learned about was about working hard and equality of opportunity, not outcomes. So if I were to get in this race, I promise you this, if the left, when they come at me, when the media comes at me, I'm not moving off my positions, my principles. I gave a speech in London on the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. The media called me racist and anti-Muslim. It's not true, but I also didn't back down. That's the kind of fighter we need for our not only Republican, but our conservative principles.
Governor Jindal, I hope you enjoy your visit to South Carolina. I know South Carolina is very, very honored to have you, and I am too. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. All the best. Keep fighting the good fight, sir.
Mike, thanks for having me, and thank you also for fighting the good fight and getting the word out there.